success, prosperity, inner peace. Achieve it all. Follow the Master Method. Hi everybody, and welcome to the Master Method. This was a show that was intended to create lives of prosperity, success, and inner peace for you, the viewers. Now today, I'm actually your host. Usually Master Marco is your host, but today we have a special guest, a surprise guest, and it is actually Master Marco himself. And we wanted to talk to him today so that he could introduce you to his clues to success, because he's been here, he's created his own life financially, in career, with his family, with his health, all the areas of his life he's created success for himself, and now we're going to get a chance to ask him how he did that. Welcome to the show, Master Marco.
Hello, and hello everyone. I'm so excited to be actually sitting here on the chair of the guest. It's so cool. So I get to tell a little bit of how I did it myself personally,
right.
And the same way how I wrote the Master Method book, telling my clues to success. Now I get to tell a little bit about how all of that came to be, all my successes, so people can actually follow those clues, and hopefully today we accomplish something great, and they will have like a little roadmap to success.
Well, I'm excited, one, because I get to sit in your chair today. I feel so powerful.
Oh, yeah, that's the power chair.
But two, because we were sitting around and we were brainstorming about the show, and we were always talking about ideas for shows. And this one I thought was so important because, you're in everybody's living rooms, every week. And I think a lot of times people are just wondering a little bit about your story, because we get to talk to guests and, find out about inspirational stories throughout the community in Montgomery County, all over the DC area. But you are actually one of those inspirational stories that I think it'll be so powerful for people to hear a little bit more about how you came to be and how you ended up where you are today.
It's very cool. We have a lot of interest, especially people are very curious to know how I did it. Not just in Montgomery County area, but as you well know, we have people that see us and watch us when we put the show on the website sometimes, or my blog. They see it from all over the world. The people that watch the show from Russia, we get a lot of Germans that watch it too. We've seen on our tracking system, and India, Russia, Croatia, Australia, the United Kingdom, from all over the world they watch, and they're fascinated by the Master Method, and that today we actually get to talk ourselves, and we get to tell them a little more about how the Master Method came to be, how the principles of the Master Method book were created.
Well, I'm very happy because, I get questions all the time, at our studio also, asking about your story. And so now this is kind of a way to allow people to get to know you a little bit more.
I'm excited.
Let's
just dive in. Let's dive in right now.
Let's back up about 38 years or so. And tell us a little bit, I already know, but for our viewers, tell us a little bit about where you came from and about your growing up.
Well, I was born and raised in Santiago, Chile, at the foothills of the Andes Mountains, and it was very cool. You go outside my house and imagine what you see. You wake up in the morning and you look outside the window, and what you see all these beautiful mountains surrounded. Santiago is like a whole, surrounded by all these mountains, so it's beautiful. And I grew up there, and in a very humble environment. My family didn't have a whole lot of money, and so it was always a struggle for us to survive. And my dad and my mom, they split up when I was very young, and so my mom really struggled to raise 3 children and tried to do that. She used to work as an assistant cook in a cafeteria in a bank. So she would always bring leftover food and things like that to be able to feed us, because her salary was actually really, really, really small. But she took the job because she could feed us with the job. She would bring food from her own work, and we grew up like that. And one of my biggest influence growing up was my tata, as I call it in my book, which is my grandfather. And he actually taught me something very, very valuable. He taught me the value of kindness, the value of humility, and what to be a real man means. You know, not in the macho sense, you know, not in the sense of strength and power, but in the sense of being kind to everyone you encounter and being humble under any circumstances, good favor circumstances and not so good. And he taught me that humility since I was a kid, so I always looked up to him, and I learned from him, you know, those values.
I think that was probably one of the biggest gifts that you were ever given, because I know, you know, in the book, humility is one of the keys to, you know, that you teach people to create a successful life, is being able to find that humility within yourself too.
Absolutely.
And you learned that from him so young.
Well, humility has a very important element, which is part of the step number 2 of the master method, and it's one special element that will help you condition your mind to success. When you lack humility, you know, that means your mind is too full to take any new information or to accept, you know, any new knowledge coming in. What I talk about in the book, in the master method book, is that humility will allow you to look at every circumstance or every challenge that you face, not as a challenge so much or as a bad thing, but look at it as it's giving you the tools and the elements that you need to succeed. It's giving you experience, it's giving you the knowledge and everything that you need to go to the next step, but we have to be humble to it. That means when a challenge comes, just be ready to open and really train your mind to look for the seed of a benefit every time that comes.
What I have found inspirational about your story, and I know your story, but I'm happy that people are going to get to hear more about it, is even though I know you had a lot of struggles and obstacles growing up as a child, you know, you kind of came from a life of poverty in a way, you know, but somehow you're able to look back on it very fondly with your grandfather, the experiences that you had, and with your brother. Your two brothers, actually, and I know you and your brother Jimmy are very, very close, and you found ways to be happy as a child, regardless of the circumstances.
Absolutely.
Who was your influence for that? Was that sort of just natural for you guys, or?
Well, let me tell you one thing. When I was a kid, you know, and if I look back, I remember since I was very little, I used to like to study behavior. Ever since I was a little kid, I was like a little psychologist or something, you know. And I look at the way people behave and the way people do certain things, and I'll take a look at my parents, for example, and I look at the way they behave when they were with friends, and I look at the way they behave when their friends were not at home anymore, and I look at the way they behave with their close family members, and I look at the way they behave in a work environment, and I see the difference, and I was fascinated by human behavior. And one thing I learned from that is that, you know, I learned to be happy regardless of what I was, you know, regardless of the situation or the circumstances, and I learned to be me and the same me everywhere I went, you know, and that was since I was very young.
Well, and even as a little boy, I hear this all the time from different sources, but a lot of times happiness is a choice.
It absolutely
because you can be faced with circumstances, terrible circumstances, but somehow people can find a way to be happy, to find a way to feel good. And it sounds like just innately when you were a child, you were able to do that, which I think really helped in your path to find success.
You know, when I didn't have any toys or anything to play with, what I would do is very simple. You know, I'll go out and I play in the dirt. You know, I capture little insects, and I play with my brother. We play hide and seek. We found ways to be happy. And like my brother and I, for example, we used to fish together, and we still do, you know, 30 years later, almost 40 years later, and we still fish. We get together in the mountains, and we go fishing, and we find, you know, that peace. We find things that makes us feel good. And one of the things that I teach in the book is that when everything is going wrong, you know, it will continue to go wrong if you continue to focus on that. And the more you focus on what's going wrong, the more difficult it becomes to get out of it. But when you find ways to feel good, your frame of mind changes, and your mind will begin consciously to find things to match that vibration. If you're feeling good, you're vibrating good, and you will continue to find things to match that vibration. So you continue to find things to support that, and you continue to find good things, and therefore you get out of the funk faster, because your mind is looking for that positivity.
I think as parents also, out there, that children might not necessarily have that innate ability to do that, but it sounds like you did. So you were very lucky, and maybe you had influences from your grandfather as well. So as parents, I think it's really important for us to be able to teach our children that too. And I know we do that a lot with our own children. Let's find the good in that. Even though something happens that you don't like, teaching them to what good could there be in that, and then it propels them through the obstacle more quickly.
One of the things that we do in our home, for example, is to teach our children, not just in our home, but in our newly that we just opened about a month ago, a Success Academy. It's a martial arts studio which we teach the success principles. One of the things that we do with children is that we actually show them and we teach them how can they find the good on every situation, that comes, instead of just focusing on what's going wrong on that. We teach them how to find the seed of something good. Try to find it. What can be good about that? Or not so much to focus on what's going wrong, focus on what's going good, or even if you cannot find it, focus on something else that is good in your life at that moment, something that you're grateful for. Like gratitude is another very important element of success, to condition your mind to success, and it's a great tool to help you from focusing on what's going wrong. You focus on,
and that can
apply
to 2-year-olds all the way up to 200-year-olds, and it's such a good foundation to have within yourself, because then everything else starts falling into place positively.
And I was able to bring, ever since I was very young, to apply these principles on various aspects. I achieved success in so many great things when I was a kid, for example, and I worked at McDonald's, when I was 18 years old, and I worked at McDonald's, and I went in there without having any experience whatsoever, and I was the guy that would sweep the floors and would clean, and I did the lowliest of all the jobs. Within 6 months, I was already promoted to trainer, and I was teaching people how to flip burgers and how to do everything in the work. And then within a year, I was a manager, and I was the employee of the year, and I was like second in command in my store.
Well, that's what I love about your story, and what I love about you as a person, actually, that no job is beneath you.
Absolutely.
And you teach us all the time also. And when you're going to do even the, quote, lowliest of jobs, the most humblest of jobs, you do it the best you can, and you were the best floor sweeper. You were the best, grease pit cleaner. And so that propelled you to the next level. It propelled you, and now here you are, business owner, 7-time world champion, happy in your home life. I hope. And, and financially, and you've created this because of the core that you have. So after the break, actually, I want to get a little bit more into how all that came to be. So stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back after these messages.